everybody, a very warm welcome back to the MEC-TEC garage. The Puma gets ever dirtier by the day, but that means that we have been doing lots of work to it, so progress has been fairly good. So without further ado, I'm not going to waffle on. We're carrying on with the panel work on the Puma. I'm hopefully going to get all the major panels put on in this video with any luck. So I'm not going to waffle on, let's crack on, get some work done. Right, we are on to the arch now. As you can see, I've been marking up some lines. Now I've popped the rear bumper out, I haven't took the right thing right off. All it is one little 8mm bolt, 7mm bolt even, and then it's on a giant clip inside there. If you can see that or not, but hang on a second, I'll show you. You just sort of give it a good pull, and sorry about the lines, you can see there's a big clip in there, and obviously that releases the rear bumper. I've just got a block of wood wedged in there to get it out of the way, this corner. Now this is my new arch panel. This is from Express Panels as well. First time I took it out of the box, looks good. But years ago, before obviously they started making these from Express Panels, I bought this, which was actually from Germany, and there was a guy in Germany making them. And this was from a guy in the Puma club who had one left over because he only did one side on his car. So as you can see, I've drawn two different lines on there. I don't really want to go up as high as that arch takes it on that panel. So what I think I'm going to do next is I'm going to buzz all this back with a grinder and see where obviously the rust underneath the paint goes to, see where we're up to clean metal. And I want to try and keep it obviously as low as I can really. But we've got to be able to get to the inner arch to obviously repair that, which is what my idea was for using that panel there. So hopefully I can use that panel there to repair the inner arch with, and then obviously that new one that I bought there for the outer arch. So that's the plan. So I'm going to buzz this back with a grinding flat disc in a grinder and see where we've got to go back to, see where we've got clean metal, and then obviously make a cut from there. Right, after a quick clean up with the flapper disc in the grinder, you can see that is what we're left with. So I've drawn another line, third line, just by hand, as far as not following a panel, and that's going to be my first cut, I think, to start with. And obviously then we can get that outer arch off, see what's behind, and go from there and get that inner one sorted out first of all, which is going to be a bit tricky, I think. So let's get this one cut off, and then we'll obviously go from there. Right, there we go. There is our outer wheel arch cut off. What's left of it, as you can see, it's pretty grotty on the back side. Yeah, that's pretty much at it, which we knew anyway, so that's fine. Interestingly, that the bit that's corroded worst had a sand pad on the back of it. Don't know whether that's got any bearing on it or not, probably not, but anyway, you can see what we're left with. I've cleaned up that inner arch. It is only that very bottom lip, luckily enough, that's corroded. So we aren't going to have to replace too much of the inner arch, which is really good. Let me just unclip you at the tripod and I'll show you a bit closer. You can see there it's all clean, really nice clean metal all the way along, apart from this corner, which I've cut out a little bit more of. But yeah, so what I'm going to do now is cut obviously into the clean metal, not too high. I want to try and keep it as tight to the bottom as I can, because obviously there's a curve in this here. So if I can keep it, I'm not going to be able to keep it on the curve all the way down, but if I can keep it on the curve majority of the way, that's going to make making the new lip a lot easier. This is just going to crumble away. This is if I look, you can see it's I don't want to make it crumble away because I want to have a template to work off of to make a new one. So that's going to be the next step. I'm going to get that cut out and obviously make up a new bit and hopefully get that welded in. Let's carry on. Right, this is taking an absolute age. As you can see, I've got this panel cut out of that old bit of arch that I bought a long while ago, and I've got it fitting nice up to about where my hand is. So I think I'm going to have to do it in 2 bits, because I had to cut slightly further back over that side because the rot was slightly further in, and I tried to cut it so that the panel would be kicking back slightly there, but it didn't work for whatever reason. So yeah, this is taking a long while. That's why I haven't time-lapsed it. So I'm going to try and get this first half up here fitted, tacked in, and then I'm probably going to have to cut it where I've done that slit, or maybe slightly further along, and make another section up from there downwards to match it. So that's the plan now. So I want to get this tacked in, and I'll come back to you when I've got a bit more progress. I'm sorry I'm not time-lapsing it all, but it is taking a hell of a long time, and I obviously don't want to rush it. I want to get it right. So I'll come back to you in a minute. Right, this is what I've come up with for the arch. As you can see, I had to cut it there to get it to fit right. So what I'm going to do, obviously I've left this long, so I'm going to weld it in now, get it into the correct shape. I need to put a little piece in this corner here because I cut those 2 bits out separately. So I just need to make a little bit to go up in there, and that should be good. And then, hopefully I better show this on camera. This is what's, sorry, trying to get these bars on the screen as usual. This is what's left of the rear arch that I've cut out. And if you lay that on top of there, I can't do it with one hand, but if you lay it on top of there, it approximately lines up with that line that I've drawn on there. I've had to obviously make it up going down here because the arch had disintegrated down there, so I couldn't have anything to follow. But I think I'm on the right track. I put a very slight curve on this panel, this strip I've made, to meet the inner arch, which is how it was, because when I cut this bit off, it had a very slight little curve inwards, only very slightly, where I cut it. So I've just done the same thing. So I think what I'm going to do now is get that buzzed in with a welder. Hopefully that'll all go all right. I don't see any reason why it wouldn't. And then obviously I'll have to make up that end piece there, and I need to make up a little bit for down here as well, because this bottom bit's not quite right yet. And then we can sort out this, cutting this arch to the right shape, and then that's the inner arch rebuilt effectively. There wasn't too much to it, to be fair. It's taken me a long while because I've been faffing around trying to get the shape right and everything else, but on the whole it's not too bad. So it looks a mess at the moment, but hopefully once I've done it, it will look absolutely marvellous. Let's crack on. Right, there we go. That is the arch lip fully repaired all the way around. It's nice and solid. I've put a little piece in this end which I did off camera, but I've made a little extra bit to go on to make that lip in there longer. So that's all done. So yeah, that's it's good. I need to get a coat of primer on there now, and then we are looking at the outer seal on the arch, which is pretty amazing really, considering what it started off like. So I think I'm probably going to do the, well, I haven't made my mind up yet, but I think I'm going to do the seal first, I think, because I don't really know why, but it just seems like the right way round to do it to me for some reason. So I think I'm going to do the sill first, and then the arch after, because obviously the sill has got to line up with the door aperture and everything else, which will then obviously make it line up with the arch. And then if the arch is in slightly the wrong place, then I can adjust it obviously to suit. So that's what I'm thinking at the moment. I don't really want to cut the arch out any bigger than that. There's no need to, because there's no more rot. This is all good metal. I don't want to go right up here. So really, if I can somehow transfer this onto the panel, then I'll just put that small section in. There's no need to put any more in. Obviously this is all going to be primed, and I'm going to put a lot of sealer inside here when I put that arch on, so it'll have a load of sealer in between it as well to obviously stop any water getting in there. So it should hopefully protect it really well. So I'm going to spend a bit of time just deciding what I'm going to do next, and as soon as I know, I'll let you know. Right, after a bit of fettling and on and off with this sill about another billion times, I think I've got it somewhere near where I need it to be. As you can see, I've got the jack propping it up in the middle. It's got a bit of a bow to it, the new sill, for whatever reason, so we need to obviously make sure that that goes on straight when we weld it on. I've cut the front to meet that top of that sill, and I've got the back marked, but I think what I'm actually going to use, instead of using an angle grinder, I'm actually going to use an air saw, and I'm going to leave the sill clamped on there so I've got the actual edge to follow, and that hopefully should give me a nice edge to meet up to when I obviously cut it to make a good neat edge to weld to, if that makes sense, you know. So I think there's nothing left for it but to bite the bullet and cut it, which I'm very nervous about, but I don't think there's anything else I can do. As you can see, it's all fitting, it's all level with the top of the inner sill. What I think I'm going to do once I have cut this is I'm going to try and maybe get a couple of tacks on it in the corners, and maybe one in the middle or two in the middle, just to hold it, and then I want to fit the door, make sure that the door lines up along the bottom okay, and it all has got nice gaps and whatever else, you know. So it's going to be a bit of a faff, because obviously if it's wrong then I'll have to just cut the tacks off, which isn't too bad, but I think it's very much worth doing while I'm at this stage, because obviously I don't want the door to have terrible gaps when I end up putting it all back together again. So yeah, I think that's the plan. So I'm going to attempt to cut that with the air saw, see how that works out, and then as I say, we'll clean the edges up, get some tacks on it, and hopefully, well, actually before I tack it, I'm going to prime the back of it, because if I don't have to take it off again, I won't, because obviously there's no point. So I'll get all the back inside of the panel all cleaned and primed, and maybe a light coat of stone chip or something on it, just so that it's got something inside to protect it. Not that anything's ever going to hit it inside, but I just don't want it to rust from the inside, you know. So yeah, I'll probably do that, and I'll come back to you in a second. Right, well, that is clamped back on there, as you would have seen. That cut actually isn't too bad. It's a little, not very happy with, I mean, it's a pattern panel, so it's never going to be perfect, but if you look at the roundness of that corner compared to the original, how sharp the original is, it's not as good. So I might have to do a bit of creative filler work there, I think, or weld the edge of it to make it more of a pronounced sharp edge. I noticed that with this edge as well. The edge on the other old panel over there is a lot sharper than what this is, but it does fit. It's level with the inner seal, top and bottom, once there's a jack under it. So I think get the edges cleaned up now, as I say, tack it in a couple of places and then try the door on, I guess, and see how we're going. It may need a bit more fettling here and there, but we are moving in the right direction. So I'm going to do a bit more fettling, and I'll come back to you in a minute. Right, we have a door on, as you can see, and I have spent probably a good couple of hours on this trying to work out the best way to get this fitted and ultimately what I'd done wrong. Not wrong as such, but how I'd done it. So I've got the door on, as you can see, the pins are in, and we can open and close the door now. And as you can see along that bottom edge, it's pretty uniform all the way along, and I've actually got it overlapped on the quarter panel at the moment. It's just tacked inside the door in that corner there, and in that corner up there. Problem I had was I couldn't get this gap around here right. It looked massive and it looked really bad. I didn't like it at all. And basically what it was, I was getting confused, if you like, with the inner lip on this panel, because the inner lip on this panel is sitting a lot higher than the others, as you can see there. So that's going to obviously need to get squeezed down and probably ground down a little bit so that it meets it properly on the height of that inside there. It did overlap a little bit, if I remember rightly. It is slightly taller. But to get the gap right, I've obviously had to bring this end of the panel up quite a long way, which is why it's overlapping so much in there. But having done that, I've got a lovely gap on the outside. Now obviously this, because it is a pattern panel effectively, you can't get genuine ones anymore, the pressing is never going to be as good as the original, and that also goes with these curves. They're not as sharp as what they are on the original panel. If I can show you this or not, but you can see it's got quite a sharp crease in that, quite all the way along, and this one is a lot more rounded. There's nothing I can do about that. The only way I could fix that is by running a bead of weld right the way along there and then grinding it all back, which I don't really want to do. And I may have to do it on the transition from the old panel to the new and just blend it out on this corner, which I'm okay with. I don't mind doing that, but I don't want to go all the way along. But I think, having taken that up to the height I have, we are somewhere near where it needs to be now. At least I'm happy with that gap, and you can see obviously it's overlapping, so that it is actually making the gap slightly smaller than what the original one was up here. But obviously that will even out when I obviously cut the old panel again, and butt them up together. So I will have to cut this again, which I'm not too worried about. I have actually scribed a line on there with a pick this time, rather than trying to cut it with the panel on there. I'm actually going to cut it with it off, and I'm going to go along the scribe line with that. But I think we're getting somewhere near it. The front edge is slightly closer, you look at it, but I don't know whether that's the shape of the door or the seal panel or what. It's pretty even, but it just looks different up here. But I don't know whether that's because the light's shining in from the end of it and you can see light through there. I wonder if I block that off so it's dark like that. See what I mean? Yeah, then it looks okay. So that's an optical illusion there then, on the end, or the light coming through the end. So that's okay. So I think I'm pretty happy with where that is. So I'm going to open the door. I'm going to mark everything on it where it all is. Unfortunately, I have to unpick those two welds again, and then I'm going to cut along here again, and obviously inside that door shut where it's overlapping, because it is all overlapping at the moment, as you can see. And hopefully that one in there, that one that is just butted up, that one's okay. So that should be all right. So yeah, all those little lines in there is where I'm going to use my spot welder. I can get the spot welder on the inside all the way along, so I'm going to use that. I've got that sitting down there waiting. I'm not sure yet whether I'm going to get new tips for the spot welder that are angled so I can do along the bottom edge, or whether I'm going to plug weld it or not yet. I haven't made my mind up. They're about 100 quid for new tips for that, but it would make a real nice factory job of it. So that's what I'm thinking. I don't know what to do yet, whether to go, which way to go. So Yeah, I'm not sure on that at the moment, but I'm going to, as I say, get that bit cut. At least I know that's right then. And then obviously make a decision, go from there. But it is progressing well. I think we're doing all right. I think for a plum like me to get a sill panel fitting like that, I'm quite chuffed with that. That's not too bad at all. Top banana. Right, another little update for you. I've been messing around with this a bit more, and I've actually got the gap even better along here now by clamping the bottom lip to where it needs to be. So this bottom lip now is actually clamped on with these clamps, and it is in the correct space, or place I should say, level wise and everything else. It just about overlaps to what's behind it, which is what we want, because obviously you don't want to seal those manky panels behind. The gap along there is all good. So the next step now, as you can see, I've got some clamps up there too. Next step now is going to be to get the sill panel back off again. Now I've done all this work trying to get it fitted. Make sure that I've got enough primer on the back of it. I've also marked on the ends, if you can see that, hang on, with those dots there, that is where I'm going to have to plug weld, because I definitely can't get a spot welder in there. So I'm going to plug weld those 3 spots there to that inner arch that I made. Same this end. I'm going to go with the plug welds. Obviously I can't get both sides of it, so I'm going to plug weld through, put 1, 2, 3, 4 there, and I'm going to put a little slice in the panel there so I can bend that round to how it was originally. And as you can see from original, that whole area was all covered in sealer, so I'm going to do exactly the same, and it should look fairly factory. Obviously we'll have to weld this seam to obviously complete that, but I think we're getting there. So I've ordered the tips for the welder now. I've decided to go for it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the spot welder as it is where I can, and then when the new tips turn up, which is got a narrower clamping area so I can get it into smaller spaces, then we can carry on and do along the bottom edge of that sill. So we can get majority of it fitted, and then obviously that will allow us then to carry on with the arch, and then when the tips turn up for the spot welder, then I can just buzz along this bottom edge and it should be absolutely marvellous. So let's get this sill back off again and recut this, and hopefully I don't cock it up, and hopefully it'll all be alright. Let's carry on. Okay, I've spent a bit of time off camera cleaning up the back of this panel and re-priming some of the bits that are scratched off. I've also drilled the holes in the ends for the plug welds, as you can see there, and I've tacked it up on this side this time. And as you can see, I've got a few tacks along the bottom of that quarter panel there, and it is all meeting now. Now I've cut that quarter panel again. The gap around the door, hopefully you can see that, is, try not to get these bars on the screen, but it looks pretty good to me, the gap, so that's looking okay. Obviously I've got it clamped along the bottom at the moment. Got a couple of tacks inside the door as well. I've done this obviously off camera because it's taken me a long time to get everything lined up. It's a little bit messy there, that bit, but we'll sort that out. So I'm not really sure where to go next now, whether to weld the 2 ends with obviously the MIG, or whether to start spot welding. I'm kind of thinking perhaps I should do the ends first so that they're nice and strong, and then obviously if I pull any tension on the panel with the spot welder on that top lip, then obviously it won't be able to pull any of this off, if that makes sense, because obviously at the moment it's only tacked with those little tiny tacks. And the most important thing we've got to look at now, which you would have seen me doing probably some of the time lapse already with the airline, is keep this panel really cool. Obviously we don't want to get any heat in it really because of warping it, so that is going to be the most important thing. So I'm going to really take my time on this and just do like the odd tack, maybe like where I've done like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tacks, I'll just go along on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and so on, and then cool them down in between each one so that I don't heat it up too much and end up with a load of warping, because obviously otherwise that means you're going to need to obviously make it straight again, which is hard. So that is the plan with that, I think. So yeah, I'm holding my breath at the moment because I'm hoping it's going to come out all right. I'm going to have to shave this lip off the top of here a little bit. It's a little bit high, but obviously the door does open and shut okay, and the gap is uniform all the way along there. I'm pretty pleased with that. For a pattern panel fitted by a Wally brain like me, I don't think I've done too bad, so I'm pretty pleased with that. So yeah, right, let's get some welds on here and hopefully it'll be on for good. Top banana. Right, after mammoth time welding, as you can see, I've got that join on the back there all done. Actually doesn't look too bad for a Wally brain. I'm quite pleased with that. It's not too bad at all. Nothing, a little bit of skimmer filler over the top won't sort out, I don't think. So that's that half. And I have obviously got this front half, as you would have seen as well, started to weld, but I'm going to have to take the door back off now to get to the rest of it to obviously do a nice job inside there. So that's going to be the next job. I need to take the, sorry, I've got a shaky hand. I'm going to take the door back off, go right the way along the inside of this bit here, and obviously then that will be fully welded. I'm going to do the plug welds down the side here, and I can do the plug welds on the back, and then we can start looking at the spot welder. Let's carry on. Right, I've got the spot welder all plugged in and hopefully set up to how this needs to be. So let's see how we get on. I've got it set to 3mm, which is roughly around what this is for these panels all together. Let's hope it does it. First time I've used it, so we'll see. Cool. How easy was that? It's holding. I wonder whether it might want to be on the higher setting slightly, because I've got it on 3mm and I think this is about 3.5. The next setting up on here is 4mm, 2 plus 2. Let's try that and see what that does. Yeah, I think that's better. Yeah, that's better. I'm happy with that. Bit more of a spot weld on that one. That makes very easy work of things, that does. Cool. Very easy work indeed. I'm just trying to push this down slightly as I go, because remember this lip is higher than the inner ones. I might have to just grind this back slightly if it's too high. The door still opens and closes alright on it, but what a fantastic bit of kit. Let's try it again. And obviously you have to set there's like an Allen bolt under here which sets the tension of how tightly it squeezes. So obviously I've set so that it's, which way around did I have it before? I can't remember. That must have been that way around, because otherwise the handle would have got in the way. And that's going through the weld through primer, 3 layers of panel, and my plug weld that I've ground back to obviously make it the same thickness as the panel. And that sparks a little bit. That is so easy. Just trying to work out which way around I like. Doesn't really make a lot of difference which way around I hold it, I don't think. That one's burnt a little bit of a hole in the outer panel, so that the panel is slightly thinner here, so I might go back down to the 3mm, because otherwise it's a little bit too powerful for it, I think. Let's try that and see. So fast though. You see that hasn't welded that. It's not enough for it. So it must have to be on the higher setting. Makes it so easy. That one I didn't squeeze it tight enough, so I need to adjust the clamping force on that one. Go a bit tighter on that one. That's all right. It's all trial and error. So there we go. And as you can see, there's a few spot welds along the top there now, all done. It's all clamped together nice. Hopefully that'll be just as strong as me plug welding it with any luck. Pretty pleased with that. Lovely. Okay, as you would have seen, I've just completed the last half of the spot welds on there. Now those spot welds that you can see that I've done are all on the original markings. I marked them all off of the original sill panel, so that's why they're a bit here, there and everywhere. So I'm thinking I might go, there's a couple of these gaps that are a bit bigger, so I might go in between a few of these, just so that I'm sort of doubling up and making sure that everything's going to be all right, because obviously I don't know how, I mean obviously this spot welder is brand new to me, I don't know how strong it is and all the rest of it, so I kind of want to err on the side of caution slightly and just go in between those again. I mean, you're never going to see it because the rubber slots over the top, so it shouldn't be an issue at all. So yeah, I think I'm going to do that. I'm just going to, these ones along here are close enough. I might, where's my pen? If I had a pound for every time I lost this pen, here it is, I'd be a millionaire by now. So I'll go maybe one in there, one in there, 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 and there. So these are a bit spaced out for my liking. So I might put some extra ones in those where I've just put those lines there, just so, to make double sure that nothing's going to pull out. You would have seen me with the belt sander, just belt sanding the back edge away. You need to make sure obviously both sides of the metal are completely clean before you use a spot welder. It needs that clean contact on both sides to be able to work and get a decent weld. So I'm going to buzz along, because obviously there wouldn't have been spot welds on the places I've just marked. So I'm going to buzz along the back with a spot welder, not with a spot welder, with a belt sander. Clean up our little areas on the back, and then that will allow us obviously then to get a good weld with the spot welder. So let's crack on, get that done, and then we can work on the bottom lip. I have got new tips coming, as I say, for this that are narrower, so they can fit in between the floor and the sill lip, but there is certain bits of it along the back bit that we can do, so it may be that we just go along that back edge and do those for now, so that that's clamped on there good and strong. And then obviously once I get the new tips, then we can just buzz along this front section. You saw how quick that was. It took me literally 10 minutes to do that. It's very, very fast indeed. So it's a nice bit of kit, that spot welder. I like that very much. And the guy who I bought it off actually put a message on the last video saying it was a shame I couldn't use it, and I said to him, oh, I've got some new tips coming for it, so hopefully it'll be in action in the next video, which is the one that I'm obviously recording now. So hopefully if he's watching, it's working well. Lovely jubbly, let's carry on. Right, there we go. That is the top edge all spot welded. That bugs the hell out of me that these aren't evenly spaced. I probably should have marked them myself and just done it how I wanted to do it, but I've followed the originals first of all, and then obviously I've just filled in the bits in between that were a bit too big for my liking. So it isn't even, but obviously you're never going to see it because it's got a rubber seal that goes over the top of it, and once it's got a coat of paint on it, they'll blend into insignificance anyway. So I'm sort of what's the word, worrying over, well, I don't know, worrying is the right word, but I'm sort of going over it in my head for no reason, I think. So it's just it's one of them things. It is how it is. So I think what I'm going to do now is, as I say, get underneath that bottom edge over there, see how far along I can get with the spot welder with the tips that are in it, get as far as I can with that, and then that should be the back quarter section welded in, because that's the bit that I can get to, and then we can probably start looking at the arch, and I would have thought, because obviously that's going to be the next thing to get welded back in again. So it's going fairly well. I've re-welded a couple of little bits along that seam there that had a few little pinholes in, nothing major. Just buzzed them in with a welder. I'm just going to buzz them back with a grinder again, put a light on the inside and make sure that I've not got any more. I don't think I have. And yeah, and we're getting there slowly but surely. So I've got to do the plug welds in the end of this seal yet as well, so we'll obviously sort that out too, and it's looking a bit more complete again now, so I'm pretty pleased. Top banana. Righty-ho, I'll just show you where I'm up to. I've done some more spot welds along the bottom here. Not really a lot to see obviously because it's the same as what I showed you up there, but just down here. I've only gone up to there. That is as far as I can get. Pretty much with the arms that are in the spot welder, because the floor flattens out and the lip behind's not so big. So I've just gone to there for now. It's all nice and strong by the seams of it. I've blown through on that one unfortunately, which you can see light through, so I'm gonna have to just do a little MIG in the middle of that one. The metal obviously on the back side of that was not as strong, either that or I had the settings up too high for that particular bit of metal. The rest of them have come out lovely. I'm trying to keep them in line-ish. I mean, they wouldn't have been in line from factory, but obviously I'm trying to keep them fairly sort of in line and uniform and such. I've done a couple of plug welds on the end there, as you can see, going through to my repair panel that I made behind there that you would have seen earlier in the other video. I need to put a little relief cut in here because you can see it's bulged out, and that is because I've obviously fixed the panel up here, and as I bent it down to meet the lip underneath, it's just squeezed that curve very slightly, which obviously has caused that little raised bit. So I'm going to just put a little slice in that. That will relieve that, like a relief cut, that will release that. Obviously then weld it back up again after. What I'll do before I weld that back up though, I'll do the 2 plug welds in this bottom 2 holes here. That will hold that in the right place, then I can weld that back up. And then we are basically onto the arch now. I can't do any more on the sill because obviously I'm waiting for those arms for that spot welder. So yeah, I think we'll move on to the arch and leave the sill. It's pretty much for the most part complete. So yeah, a little bit of fettling here and there off camera I'll do, but that is basically in. So that's really good. I'm really chuffed with that. So right, I'm going to get set up, have a look, start looking at this arch now and see what we can do with this. Right, we've got the panel just clamped on for the moment. As you can see, I've cut off this bottom piece because obviously I don't need that. That's already on the sill panel itself. So yeah, I've got that clamped on there, and I need to obviously find where the arch is now. I mean, I know how to do this, and I realised I could get to it from the inside. So I think what I'm going to do is trace it from the inside. Obviously where I've cut the original quarter, that will give me some idea of where I need to be. And what I'll do is I'll cut just outside of the line that I draw, which will hopefully allow me enough panel to tuck up behind the inside of the arch, so that I can then get an accurate mark from the outside, if that makes sense, with a pick to scribe it. Because obviously these pens are quite fat, so I don't want to cut straight on this line and then have a massive gap. So I think I'm going to get a rough idea of where I need to be by drawing on the inside. I say cut just around the outer edge of that line, and then I can hopefully scoop this in underneath the panel all the way around, same as I did with the sill, and hopefully I'll be able to get a nice scored line. But obviously I don't want to put all this arch in because there's no need to, and also there's quite a substantial curve up here on the main quarter panel, which isn't in this panel, as you can see by that gap. So it would be a right pain to try and fit that whole thing, and there's no need to fit that whole thing either. And obviously, so the closer I can keep it to this arch, the easier it's going to be to feather the filler out. And what my plan is to try and just paint up to this swage line here, which has actually been done on this car before. I had it done years ago when I had an Arctic lorry hit me in this. I was stationary, and he decided he wanted my bit of road. So that could have been why this side has started to rot sooner as well, because I did notice after that had been repaired that this arch had very slightly rolled in, and I think it broke the seam on the back and allowed water to get in there. That's my theory anyway. But anyway, right, let's get this traced from the inside and see what we can come up with as far as getting it cut closer to where we need it. Okay, my plan worked to a point, because obviously the arch gets very close and you can't get a pin in there up from about sort of there onwards. So I've drawn around the bit I can obviously get to, which was up to this line here, and then I've just run my pen line around the rest of the arch at the same distance away from this, and it does actually work out somehow or another that I've got that just about right. I've just measured on a tape measure to show you in a second. You can see from the edge of that arch to where I've cut is approximately, about 46 mil, something like that, and I've measured on there by eye 50 mil, so, or just under, so that will work out probably about right for me to first cut, and then obviously, as I say, I can then fettle it in there and get it to to sit in there nice. So I'm going to double check my measurements again, make sure that I've done it right and I'm not going to be left with not enough, and then we may go for a cut and see how we get on. Right, I'll just show you what I've got going on here. This is the arch that I've cut down now. It's not an exact fit yet, but you can probably just about see in the camera there's a black line very close to the edge of this, obviously where it's cut open, which is what I need to cut this, which is what I need to grind this to match this. So that's going to sit in there, something like that, and obviously I'm going to get that to fit in there. Now this end, I couldn't get the gap right and I couldn't work out why, and what it is this piece of the arch needs to come out like that. See, it's sort of got a bit of a tweak to it. So what I actually need to do is modify my inner arch that I've made, because this bit kicks in a little bit too early. So what I'm going to do, I don't know if you remember, but I put a little small piece in the end of here. I made the arch up to sort of there, and then I put a square in to make it go back to where it needs to go to. Well, what I've obviously done is made it so that it goes back slightly too soon. So I'm going to cut a slit back down that again, bring this out to where it needs to be so that it meets this arch and makes the gap right down the bumper, and then I may have to add a little bit more material in the corner there to obviously make that right, because I don't want it to be kicking back where it shouldn't be, because otherwise it makes this bumper gap look wrong and it looks horrible. So yeah, that's where I'm at the moment. So I'm going to spend a bit of time just taking this edge back gently with a flappy wheel and a grinder, just to get it back to that black line that I've got round there. And then I'm going to have a look at this and see if I can modify this to make it obviously fit how I want it to. It seems to be okay everywhere else. It's touching the outer arch all the way along except for this bit up here, so it's not too bad really. I mean, obviously the seal, the quarter panel's sitting against this arch nice. I made it so that it did that, so I know this end's okay. It's just obviously sorting out that one corner, which isn't the end of the world. So yeah, it's progressing, but it's very slow progress, because as you can probably imagine, I've had this arch on and off of here about 4 billion times so far, or 4 billion and one actually. So yeah, it's very time consuming and not really very exciting to watch. So I haven't time lapsed it or anything, because otherwise you'd just be sitting watching me going like this all the time. Be on and off, on and off, on and off. Right, I'm going to do a bit of clean up on this edge, and I'll come back to you when I've got a bit more progress. Right, I'm hoping you're going to be able to see this right. I've got it clamped down here, and I've had this on and off about 1 billion times, and I'm pretty much there with it, I think. As you can see, it's pretty good. There's a bit of a bigger gap this end where I've cut it slightly big, but that will be absolutely fine. This is a very difficult panel to try and get right as far as cutting, because it curves in there, then it curves out, then it curves over, and the whole thing curves that way as well. So it's a right difficult panel. So I've got it clamped down here level with this arch. I did have a problem getting this level with that, but it seems to be all right now. So, and I've got this, I'll just take this off, I'll show you. I'll put a relief cut on the inner arch just there, which has allowed me to bring out this section towards the camera effectively, and that's now in the correct place. So I think what I'll do before I do anything else, I'll buzz that up with a bit of weld. Obviously I can just re-weld that because it's only a small gap, didn't need a lot. And I actually cut that down the original join where I put that piece in there, so it's not going to have any more bits of metal in there, so that's all right. So I'll get that welded up, get a little bit of primer over it, and then what I think I'm going to do, I've got the old Worth Bond and Seal in grey, and I think I'm going to put a little bead of that around the inside of my panel there, just around this very edge in here, so it's got something in there to glue to that inner arch to, just to stop any moisture getting through. I've done weld through primer on both, as you can see, so they should be nice and protected. And when we obviously bend this clinch flange over to go around this panel, I'll put sealer in between that and this as well, so it'll be proper sealed up, not like they did originally. I didn't put any in there originally. So yeah, that's where I'm at the moment. So I think I'm going to get that bit welded up, and then I'll hopefully get this arch tacked in with any luck, and that will be in there and looking absolutely marvellous. Right, well, I can't say I'm not pleased with that, to be honest with you. I really took my time with this. As you probably would have seen in the time lapse, I did take it off and on twice or once, put it on once and then took it off again and put it on again. But yeah, I'm pretty chuffed with that. It's come out pretty well. Obviously it's just tacked all round at the moment. I've managed to get this to line up pretty well with that seal panel. Obviously this edge needs to be rolled around onto the inner lip, which we'll do once it's completely welded in. And I also want to add an extra bead of sealer right round the inside of this arch before I start tapping that edge down, so that it's got an extra barrier, which it never had originally. And then obviously once it's all in and tapped down and everything else, when I do all the paintwork and stone chip on the wheel arch, I'm going to give it another layer over the top once the clinch flange is actually closed up, if that makes sense. So I'll have sealer on the inner arch, which you saw me put on. It'll have sealer inside the lip once I've tapped it down, and then it'll have sealer over the top of the seam once it's all tapped down. So it should stop it rusting again in theory. Never say never, because obviously it's a Ford, but we know they like a bit of rust for old Fords. But anyway, so I am really pleased with that. I've even got the gap pretty good on that as well up there. It's a little bit affected on this very edge, but I haven't finished obviously inside the lip inside this bumper yet. So, but the gap itself is absolutely fine, and I was having trouble getting that lined up with this. But now it's obviously gone in, and I've sort of worked my way around it. It has actually gone in pretty well. So yeah, I'm pretty chuffed with that. That's not bad for a Wally brain. Right, there we go. That is the arch in, completely welded, ground down, and it don't look too bad, to be fair. Is it perfect? Probably not. No, nowhere near. It's going to need obviously some filler and stuff like that, as you'd expect, but considering I did it, I'm quite pleased with that. That's not too bad at all. So the only thing I've got left to do is a little bit behind the bumper there. I haven't finished that very corner where it sort of laps back. I've got to sort that out. I've also done the extra plug welds inside here at the bottom, 2 there, and I cut a slit before I welded them to relieve that bit of pressure on that panel, and I've welded the slit back up again, so that is all nice and smooth. Once you get a little bit of filler and primer on there and paint, you won't even see any of that. So there you go. So that is the driver's side complete as far as panels go. I'm hoping I'm not going to find any more anywhere else. I'm going to have a good look and make sure, but we are solid again on this side, so I am pretty chuffed with that. That is that's not bad for a plum. Top banana. Right then, that is going to be it for this episode on MEC-TEC. I think that is a very good place to stop. We've got all the major panels now on the car. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we won't find too much more anywhere else. Now, one thing I just wanted to mention, you may have seen in the time lapse I was doing the tack welds on that arch without the mask down on my welding helmet. Now, don't ever look directly at the arc of a weld. I was closing my eyes every time or looking slightly away. So just a little word of warning there, don't ever look straight at the weld if you're going to weld without a mask, because it's quite dark in here, I find, and I find it hard to see through a mask, and it's actually better sometimes if I can see what I'm doing and actually just shut my eyes each time I do it. So that is what I was doing there, just to clarify, I wasn't looking straight at the welding, because obviously that's not very good for you at all. In the next episode, I'm hoping we're going to start getting all the sealer and primer and filler and all that sort of thing started on this car. Hopefully, fingers crossed, it will go all right. I've got a little tiny bit more welding to do on that back arch. As I said, behind that rear bumper, it's virtually nothing. And I want to go around and just make sure any bits and bobs that where I've cut things, if I've overrun a cut slightly with the grinder, I just want to buzz up the little slits. There's a couple inside the door shut that I want to sort out and things like that. So there's nothing really major. It's probably going to take 10 minutes to go around and do all that. And then we can get on to getting it all cleaned up, getting some seam sealer on all the joins and everything else that I've done, and hopefully getting it starting to go back together again with any luck. So that should be really good. Now remember to do 4 things for me if you like projects like this: like, subscribe, share, and hit the notification bell. It's all free, it costs you absolutely nothing, and it really helps me out on the channel, and I really do appreciate it. Thank you very much to everyone who has been subscribing. The subscribers have gone up a fair bit over the last couple of weeks, so I've had a little surge, so that's quite nice. Remember, I've got Instagram, MEC_TEC1985, and I have got Facebook, MEC-TEC, for little sneak peeks during the week of what I'm up to, if I remember. And all that's left for me to say is thank you very much for watching, and if you want to join me soon for more automotive adventures, I will see you again next time. Cheers guys.